global warming, or none like it hot. You're probably wondering why your ice cream went away. Well, Susie, the culprit isn't foreigners, it's global warming.
Global warming?
Yeah. Meet Mr. Sunbeam. He comes all the way from the sun to visit Earth.
Hello, Earth. Just popping in to brighten your day. La 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 la. And now I'll be on my way.
Not so fast, Sunbeam. We're greenhouse gases. You ain't going nowhere.
Oh, God, it hurts.
Pretty soon, Earth is chock full of sunbeams. They're rotting corpses heating our atmosphere.
Now we're going to go back a little further in time, 600,000 years. All right, so this is really a look at CO2 concentrations in the atmosphere again over the last 600,000, actually 650,000 years, and this is pretty recent data. This is, up until about a couple of years ago, we only had graphs that went back about 400,000 years. Now we're able, with latest results in, to go back 650,000 or so, give or take a few days. And what you see there, of course, is the up and down of the CO2 concentrations. And every time you're at the bottom of one of these, what do you get?
Ice age.
Ice age, that's right. So the last time we were down there, on the right, this is a while back. Anybody remember that? We had about, well, a little more ice than we had yesterday on the roads. We had about a mile of ice over Manhattan, except Manhattan wasn't really there. This is overlaying the temperatures, this time in degrees Fahrenheit. And again, here you see very clear correlation between carbon dioxide concentration in the atmosphere and temperature. We're going to expand the scale a little bit upwards, and since the bed sheet is a queen size and not a king size bed, we had to crush this a little bit, and this is not really to scale. If it were to scale, I'd have to get up on that ladder. Remember that in the movie, that little forklift thing? 400 parts per million up there. That's where, close to that, at least 380 or so parts per million is where we are now. And that's where we're going to be if we keep doing what we're doing now and burn fossil fuel as if there was no tomorrow. Current analysis by our best scientists, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change report that just came out, Dr. James Hansen, the NASA Goddard scientists, and many, many others, is saying that we can manage, if we keep carbon emissions to a level where we'll just about double our atmospheric carbon concentrations. So we'll reach about 500 parts per million or so. That'll mean that we'll raise temperatures by, average mean temperatures, by about 2 degrees Celsius, or maybe 3.6 degrees Fahrenheit. We'll have some pretty tough stuff to deal with, but it will be manageable, and we will not have major irreversible changes if we do that. But if we go above that, there's a point of no return, and that's the state of today's science. It may get worse, but if we keep going in this direction, if we go to 600, or some people are even concerned now going to 700 or 800, we're not going to make it. So what we need to do now, and I sort of compare this, I guess because I drive too much, and I'm always on the LIE going up and down, I sort of compare this to, when people say to me, so isn't it too late? Can we still do anything about this? Or should we just party and forget about it? Well, it's like when you're on the LIE and, it's just coming here from East Hampton and, nothing happened, but a couple of guys were like getting a little crazy and almost bumped into each other in front of me. They had an almost collision there, and if it would have been an accident and I would have hit them, what would I do? Would I say, well, there's a 90% chance that I'm not going to hit them, and therefore I'm not going to hit the brakes. I'm going to study this a little more. I'm going to wait a little bit and see. Well, no. I would hit the brakes, right? And would I say, well, you know, it doesn't really matter anymore. I'm going to hit them anyhow, right? So I'm just going to let go. No, I wouldn't say that, because it makes a huge difference whether you have an impact with 55 miles an hour or 15 miles an hour, right? You get hurt at 15 miles an hour, but you get hurt a lot more at 55 miles an hour. So if we put on the brakes, we'll make it, we'll survive, it'll hurt. But it'll be a lot better than if we just keep going with business as usual. All right, enough already, right? This is depressing. This can really get you down. So why am I showing you this stuff? Let's go back to the beginning where I started. I feel that once you know this, and you've all been exposed to this knowledge here tonight now, and it's not the first time that you've seen this, you just can't claim that you didn't know. And you better make a decision now. And that decision has to be whether you're going to look the other way and just ignore this. And when your children and grandchildren and future generations are going to come up to you and ask you, what were you thinking? What are you going to tell them? What are we going to tell them? I just needed a big car because I had to drive a lot of stuff around. Really, Mom. Right? I mean, what are you going to tell them? I needed to live in a 5,000 square foot house and have air conditioning and heating, and I had to buy all this stuff because it was on sale. It's not going to fly. So if you ask me, the best course of action for each one of us is to start facing this and say, hey, I can do something about this. I can do something about this. I don't even have to wait for the people in the legislature in Hauppauge and in Mineola, and I don't have to wait for the people in Albany to make up their mind about renewable energy and climate change, and I don't have to wait for that guy in the White House to get it. We get it, right? Is that anybody in this room not get it? No, I didn't think so. We get it. And the good news is we have the tools to start on the solution tonight. Each one of us has 100 or 1,000 ways to reduce carbon dioxide emissions, right? At our homes, at our workplaces, at our places of worship, in our communities, everywhere. So there's a huge number of things we can all each individually do to make a difference. That's number one. And I just, you know, I bring these things just as reminders. You all know this. What do you call this? A light bulb? Yes. I call this a dumb bulb. This is a really dumb bulb. This thing, you know, when I turn on the light, I want to read. I want to have light. But this is really a little hot plate. This turns most of the electricity that you put in into heat. Now, if you want to make toast, this is a great appliance. It makes a beautiful toaster. But if you want light, don't use this thing. This is really stupid. You're wasting 80 or 90% of your money burning electricity to make heat when you wanted light. If you have an air conditioner in your home and it's running, you then have to remove that heat that you just generated because you wanted to read a book and have light. You have to remove that heat by running your air conditioning harder. So that's really stupid. This is an old one. They have got much smaller and more efficient, actually, and much better light quality, but this is called a compact fluorescent light bulb. This turns most of the electricity into light and very little into heat. This lasts about 8 to 10 times longer than a conventional bulb, and it saves on Long Island anywhere from $60 to $75 over the lifetime of this bulb. So this is a great investment. Is anybody here working on Wall Street? I didn't think so, but this is a great stock tip. You know, if you buy one of these, and it may cost you $2 or $3, a little more expensive than the dumb bulb, But this is a really good tip. This is a safe investment here. Of course, then you can do a lot better than that. I did this on my own home. We lived in a conventional home some years ago. Our energy bill, our electricity bill was just about average, $110 a month or so at the time. We built a super energy efficient home. We made it a passive solar home, a hybrid solar heating system, and we had, through these kind of measures, energy efficiency and conservation measures, we reduced our energy consumption by about 70%. All right, so if we can reduce consumption in homes by approximately 70% with off-the-shelf regular technology, no rocket science there. Then I said, well, that's not good enough. I got to do better than that. We installed solar panels, solar electric panels on our home, and our electric usage went down to zero, or virtually zero. We still actually pay about $5 a month to LIPA for the privilege of having a meter. And I can tell you one thing, it is the most wonderful appliance that we have, that electric meter, because when the sun shines and those solar panels crank out electricity, that meter runs backwards, you know. And in the summer, I don't do this time of the year, but in the summer, first thing in the morning I do, sometimes still in my underwear, I run out there and look at that meter, and when the sun comes up, it starts running backwards. So it's like a savings account. And so over the course of the year, we essentially break even. We generate as much electricity over the course of the year as we need over the course of the year. Solar electric systems aren't cheap. You're talking, you know, like a car, you're paying $10, $15, $20, $30,000 for such a system. There are some very attractive rebates available from the Long Island Power Authority. So there are tax rebates, tax credits actually, and there are the sales tax exemptions on it. So you can actually get a solar electric system today for about half the price, and it will generate enough electricity over its lifetime to double or triple your initial investment. If you can't install solar panels on your home because you don't own the home, or it's shady, or for whatever other reasons, if you don't want to shell out $10 or $15 or $20,000 because you don't have it, you can buy green electricity. You can purchase electricity that's generated with renewable power. Wind power, for example. We do that at the Rely office. We don't own the space we're in, so we figured we do the right thing. We pay a little extra, a little premium, 2.5 cents extra per kilowatt hour or so. We're doing the right thing. We're buying electricity generated from wind power. Silver buckshot that will solve this problem. And the scientific term for this is the wedge graphic, and this is what you're going to see here, which is that in order to bring emissions down, and we need to bring emissions down by about 80% by mid-century, by 2050, we're going to have to use a lot of varying technologies, including solar energy, wind energy, energy efficiency, and a lot of other things. So what you see here are these wedges that scientists and engineers and policymakers are putting in here as predictions, and they're predictions, nothing other than that, as to what we could do, what could be done with end-use efficiency, the kinds of things we talked about earlier, with other end-use efficiency technologies, with increasing vehicle efficiency, with other transportation efficiency, with renewable energy, including, by the way, solar and wind, and a few other things. So that's called the wedge graph. And again, one thing it shows is that if somebody tells you, we're going to do this with wind turbines, no. We're going to do this with repowering our power plants, no, that's not enough. That's just not going to cut it. We're going to do it by just putting solar panels on everybody's roof, no, it's not going to be enough. We're going to have to do all of this and possibly more to make it. Now, the point that you make is well taken. It could be that some of these projections are wrong. It could be that some of these wedges are only half the size. But it could also be that some of the other wedges are twice that size. But the important point here is that we have the technologies to solve this problem, and we've got to get started immediately, because if we don't, if we wait another 10 years, we're not going to make it. All right? If you're looking for corporations that are trying to do the right thing or do more of the right thing on this issue on climate change. You can find that on a variety of websites. But one thing I wanted to say here tonight is that I think you have all resolved that you're going to try to do what you can at home, at your workplace, in your community to become part of the solution here. I think that's not enough. I think you have to get involved in activism, whether it's as a shareholder activist. If you have shares in a company, you can certainly write that company to look at this issue and do something positive about it and become part of the solution. Or whether you are a citizen who can vote, you can certainly call your elected representative and tell him or her to get involved and do something about this. Because by just individual action, we're not going to do it. We need to have different regulations. We need to have different economic incentives and disincentives in place. We need to change the whole paradigm here. We need to make a dramatic shift in how we use energy and how we live. It's not going to be easy. But if we wait another decade and wait until we see more and more catastrophes, at some point it's going to be clear to everybody that we need to make that change. But it's going to be so much harder and so much more painful to do it then than if we do it now. And we still have time to do it, but we cannot lose another decade. We need to do it now. So I would urge all of you to get involved in activism. And you, if I look at you here, you all look like born activists. I don't know what it is, but you all have that look in your face that just tells me that you're the kind of people that will actually write letters to the editor, that will call your Suffolk County representative, your Suffolk County legislature, your Nassau County legislator, that will pick up the phone and call Clinton's office and Schumer's office and call everybody in the phone book that is electable or has been elected. And you'll hold their feet to the fire. And you will talk to your employer and say, wait a minute, how come we don't do an energy audit on this facility? We're wasting money in our business here. That's not good for the bottom line, but it's also not good for the planet. So there are a lot of things we can do. We vote with our dollars. The products we buy and the services we buy directly influence what corporations, whether they're local businesses or multinational corporations, do and how they run their businesses. That's how we can change things. We can, we must, and we will solve this problem. We are part of the problem, but we're also part of the solution. So I would urge you to do everything you can at home and in the workplace. I would, of course, urge you to become involved, become a member of Renewable Energy Long Island, or a member of any of the other organizations that are doing great work here on Long Island, locally, statewide, and nationally on this issue. We can also, by the way, form a local action network group on climate change. We've done this in a few other places. We've started that in Southampton Town, where I gave a talk and people said, so what do? We've got to get together and do something. Let's start at the local level. Right? And people got together and started talking to their town officials, saying, we got to make sure that the town requires energy audits of their facilities. We got to make sure that our schools are energy efficient. We can put solar panels up there, and et cetera, et cetera. We can buy wind power. There's so much you can all do. And Beth Kateni here from the Neighborhood Network has been doing great work working with municipalities all over the island. We've been working with the Neighborhood Network on getting the towns involved. But we can't do it alone. We need your help. Because we can sit down and put on a suit and a tie and talk to the town supervisors, and they go like, go away. We don't need this. But if they hear from you, from constituents, and if they hear from you every day, not the same one of you, but you call Monday, you call Tuesday, you call Wednesday, they'll eventually get the picture. They'll get the message. So let's do it together. Let's work together. We can do this. This is the message of hope here. This is the good news. To me, this is not a depressing story. To me, this is a story of opportunity. We have a crisis, and crisis is opportunity. And when our kids and grandchildren, the future generations, are going to ask us that question, we'll have an answer for them. All right. So with that, I want to thank you all. It's been a tremendous audience. You've been hanging in there for so long.